Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was the first in my family to graduate from high school, the first in my family to attend college. I understand the value of education. I wouldn't be here without a great education, and I'm sure all of us can say the same thing. So I very much appreciate Mr. Smith bringing this bill. This is an important bill. I attended a small Mennonite school. My kids, 3 kids, all attended public education. In fact, I'm somewhat agnostic about how the education is delivered, but every single child ought to have the access to a great education. That can happen in a public school, it can happen in a private school, charter school, even homeschooling. Each one of those can also have poor schools. And I think it's one of the premises here is that public schools vary. Everyone, I think, here will agree to that. There are some excellent public schools, and there are some really bad public schools. And we ought to do everything that we possibly can to fund public schools appropriately. In fact, I think it's one of the best use of taxpayer dollars is to ensure that our schools are adequately funded so that every child can have the education that they deserve. In fact, I've done a lot of work. I was education chair in the state senate in Pennsylvania, did a lot of work to ensure that our neediest schools were getting more dollars so that they could adequately address the needs of students there, and I think that's absolutely critical. I do want to go back to something Mr. Doggett said, in fact, maybe a few things that Mr. Doggett said. One was this is a new program. It is for federal, this type of program, but there are a number of states, including Pennsylvania, that has a really good tax credit program for education. And in fact, the EITC program in Pennsylvania is widely supported by Democrats and Republicans alike. Since its initiation, it's been added to multiple times because people see the impact on kids' lives. So yes, I agree with Mr. Doggett. We haven't seen a federal program like this, but certainly we've seen programs that work really, really effectively. And then I want to say, one other thing. Americans like choice. Can you imagine if we were told where we had to grocery shop, which car we had to buy? And even in fact, again, this to something Mr. Doggett said. He said that his kids had access to some of the best universities or institutions of higher education across the country. Imagine if we had to choose our college that our kids go to or that we go to based on, you had only one choice, based on the zip code that you live in. Rather, Pennsylvania, by the way, is known for a great system of higher education. We have everything from good community colleges to state system to independent colleges to large research universities. Every one of them is tailored to specific students, and families choose which fits best for their budget and for their child's needs and what their child wants to accomplish. In fact, public school system is one of the few things I can think of in America where we force individuals just to have one choice, and that's based on where you happen to be born. And to Mr. Smith's point, if you're wealthy, most of us here, in fact, it'd be interesting to do a survey of how many of us here went to a private school and how many of your kids went to private schools. I don't know the answer to that, but the point is, there are a lot of people who are opposed to choice in education that have the means to send their own kids somewhere else, as Mr. Smith just said. And that's just not fair. And I've seen failing school systems in Pennsylvania that are letting down our kids. We've done everything we can to try to improve those schools, to make sure they're working properly, but at some point you got to give other options. And I think every child should have an option. Every family should have an option for their child to go where they think they've received the best education. So I think this is a wonderful piece of legislation. I think it's absolutely critical that we pass legislation like this. It does not, as has been said, funnel money away from public schools. I'll repeat that. It does not funnel money away from public schools. Our public schools are funded by local and state dollars. These dollars going in, scholarship dollars going into schools, does not change that. So this does not funnel money from public schools. It just simply gives more students the opportunity for a great start on life. I do want to say one other thing about the deductions, and this is something that Ms. Moore said, and this relates to the previous bill, my bill, and this bill. There's nothing in this, certainly there's no double dip provision that prevents taking double credits. Your point was, well, they could still take a deduction. We are not aware of any state anywhere where there's a deduction for this kind of program. So that's not a problem that currently exists today. You cannot take this credit and then take a deduction through a state program anywhere that we're aware of. Now, maybe that could be put in place, but that is not a problem that we see today. And I see I'm out of time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.